Welcome, everybody. It is time for our 2023 NBA mock draft. Now, this one is exciting because Noah has been on this mock draft before last year. He's going to represent the Spurs today, but this year, the Spurs have won the lottery, the number one pick. And we'll get into it, Noah, but the experts are saying this is probably one of the best picks in NBA history.
Yeah. And I think everybody knows what the Spurs are going to do, right? They're going to go Victor Wembanyama. There's not a lot of mystery around that. There's not a lot of, anticipation. There's a ton of anticipation, but no like mysterious anticipation around it. We know what's going to happen. So they're going Wembanyama. I couldn't be more excited. I know the fans could not be more excited. This is just, how lucky could the Spurs get? They David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and now they have Victor Wembanyama to carry that big man torch who's at the middle of your franchise. Like, I'm so excited. I really cannot wait for next season to just get started already.
Yes, the number one picks for the Spurs have been pretty good. Now look, the Spurs won, 22 games last year. Now they're picking up, they're calling him Victor Wembanyama,
Yeah.
7'4", 230 pounds, 8-foot wingspan. He's 19 years old. How do you see him fitting in with the rest of, I guess it's going to be the starting four, right? They're still young guys. You got Trey Jones, who obviously the Grizzlies are very familiar with, Sohan, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell. Like, do you see that combination fitting well?
Yeah, I think that they might try a different kind of lineup than that. I know that Wembanyama had kind of come out and pretty much explicitly stated, and I think it was either Jonathan Givony or Brian Windhorst saying that he doesn't want to play center. He's not interested in playing center, that he sees himself more as a forward. Okay. And so I think that also makes sense. I mean, you look at teams like, we didn't see Chet play, but I think it would have been the same thing with Chet last season where, yes, he is over 7 feet tall, but he's so slender and he's really better as like that free safety kind of roamer on defense that he probably wasn't going to play a lot of center. So they probably need to bring someone in, or they need to just play Zach Collins at the 5, which I think is fine because Pop at the very end of the season, the exit interviews told everybody it is Zach Collins who will be the starter at center next season. So I think that works perfectly. So does that kind of, kick somebody out of the lineup? Yes. And I think at this point, it's probably going to be either Keldon Johnson or it's going to be Jeremy Sohan. So the Spurs have a few decisions to make there. Could even be Trey Jones if they really want to go without a point guard, though I think they kind of need someone to get them into their sets, but we'll see. They have a lot of possibilities. But for now, I think Collins definitely at the 5, Wembanyama at the 4, and Vassell is in there no matter what.
Yes. So Wembanyama is, this guy that I think a lot of people have never seen before, scores really well at the rim, protects the rim really well. On the other side is hitting like step back threes, especially at his height. What are you most excited about for him coming to San Antonio?
I think I'm most excited to just have someone who actually gives the rest of the NBA world a reason to look at San Antonio. Like, I love Tim Duncan, right? Everybody loves Timmy here in San Antonio, and everybody loved David Robinson. But I think that people in San Antonio would be the first to tell you that aside from all the winning, which is so fun, right? We love winning titles. They didn't really have a lot of like big name draw, right? Like there weren't, they weren't in a ton of commercials. They weren't on like every billboard. The league wasn't really pushing them to the forefront. And I think Wembanyama is a guy who you absolutely cannot ignore. But if we're talking about on the court, I think I'm just looking forward to seeing how versatile we can make the lineup. Because as you mentioned, he's a guy who can step out and hit a 3. He can throw down lobs. He can handle the ball in transition. Like, he's going to add a lot of different dynamics to this team that really nobody else in the league probably could. So really excited for that because the Spurs desperately need an injection of life into that roster. And I think he brings that.
My last question for you is, you've covered this team, so you know Pop, and Pop is arguably the best coach in the NBA, like in terms of active coach who's been there for so long. You think that's a good fit?
Absolutely. I do think it's a good fit. And I think if you asked Wembanyama, I think he would say the same thing. Like right after the draft, he was saying how he kind of spoke it into that he went in the bathroom in the morning, looked himself in the mirror and said, I want to go to San Antonio. It's going to happen. And you could see as they were counting down, like, pick number 4, pick number 3, pick number 2, when the Rockets went by, he like put his hands together and like looked up at the sky and was like, thank God I don't have to go to the Rockets. And then when the Spurs hit at number 1, he was like beside himself. So I think he's really excited. He gave an interview in France, like right after it happened, saying, you know, he respects Pop and that Pop knows more than he'll ever know about basketball. And he can't wait to get to San Antonio. So besides that, you got the Boris Diaw connection. You've got the, you know, the Tony Parker connection, who they've known that guy since he was, 6, 7, 8 years old. Like they've known him forever. So I think it's just almost too perfect. It's as if the NBA sort of wrote it into the script, if you will. So I'm really excited for him to come here, and I think he is too.
Yeah, the script was scripting with this one. Noah, I'm excited for you. And hey, I appreciate you coming on to our mock draft. Appreciate you picking for the Spurs. And I'm excited to do some game day updates with you next year with Victor in your lineup.
Same here. Thank you so much for having me.